to present my own reply.
Say unto others that you would have them say unto you.
Say unto others that you would have them say unto you.
Give a talk on a Howard Zinn memorial lecture at a Occupy meeting.
Hello and welcome to NewsClick. Today we have with us Professor Vijay Prashad from Trinity College, Connecticut. Vijay, we've been all observing the Occupy Wall Street campaign which is going on now in the United States, seems to have spilled over to a number of cities, even different countries. What do you think is bringing the people out in such large numbers, and do you think it's really crossed what I would call as the insensitivity barrier which seemed to have been there for a long time in the United States?
Well, look, there are so many problems and so many grievances among the population that it's no surprise that something like this has happened. The immediate or proximate cause for bringing people out is simply the very miserable economic condition in the United States, with an official unemployment rate that refuses to go below about 9.1%. In some cities like Hartford, the official unemployment rate is 33.5%. So 1 in 3 people in Hartford, Connecticut, where I am now, are unemployed. Put to that, on top of that, the political situation is miserable. Neither the Republicans nor the Democrats can come up with any kind of credible policies which seem to be able to address this stark economic problem, joblessness, high income inequality, and at the same time banks and CEOs who seem to be making a considerable profit as the year goes on. So there is the economic condition, there is the political crisis, and in the middle of this, when the call was given for Occupy Wall Street, many people came just on the first day. There are so many grievances, and it, I think, just took the trigger of a political collapse where there was a stalemate in Washington to provide the impetus for people to stick it out now and wait to see what the next period will bring.
Do you think that's emergence of a kind of left bloc in American politics? Earlier we had the Tea Party, which is really trying to shift the politics of the Republican Party, at least to the right. Do you think this is in some sense a kind of left pressure group which is going to be created?
Well, you know, for the past several decades, people have moved into single issue organizing. So there have been, reasonable sized movements in cities against police brutality, against homelessness, against the war. There have been movements against student debt. So all across the political landscape in the United States, there's been a fragmented left, which has not been able to find any way to coalesce, to come together. When Occupy Wall Street began, these many fractions of the left have become an essential party to Occupy Wall Street, which is why the grievances being articulated at these Occupy sites are many, and why there are no simple demand sheets. Every important grievance is finding an airing. So certainly the left, not coming out of nowhere, but coming out of its fragmentary state, has found something to unify around, which is the symbol of we are the 99%. What's also important is this we are the 99% are not clear about whether a legislative agenda is at all possible and whether they should become a left bloc for, as it were, the Democratic Party. Most of the Occupy sites I have visited, there is a great sense that the political system is completely broken and an alternative is necessary. So they are not willing to, as it were, break up their tents and go and work for Barack Obama's jobs bill or to go and work for the re-election campaign of Barack Obama. Many of the people at these Occupy sites are greatly dissatisfied with the entire political system. So yes, a left bloc has coalesced, but whether this left bloc will have electoral impact or not, that is to be seen.
The issue that has come up is that the fact there is no common set of demands. Do you think this is a weakness or a strength of this kind of coalescence?
Well, on the surface, there is a very simple demand, which is that we are the 99%, we are 99% of the population, we have very little access to property, very little access to power, nobody's listening to us. the lobbies in Congress are lobbies of the 1%. Currently, in the private sector, unions are only in 7% of, 7% of the workforce in the private sector is unionized. So there is a great sense. The first principal demand is that we need our voice heard. We want to have a place in the political dialogue. So I think there is a demand. It's just that the demand is very general. Then each Occupy site has produced its own sets of demands, and there are many. And why I think it's actually not a problem at this stage to have a very complicated list of demands is that the Occupy movement is coalescing a left bloc. And at this time, all grievances need to come and find a place in that bloc. This is not the time for sectarianism. This is not the time to narrow the demands too greatly to cut people out. We are coming out of a period where the left was deeply fragmented, as I said, into single issue politics. So it's going to take some time for those single issues to be brought onto the table and for a kind of overarching framework to be created. And I think that idea of the 99% is a very elegant opening demand, which enables this wide section of grievances to be aired and for a wide section of people to see themselves in this movement. People who had absolutely no allegiance to any kind of left or progressive politics and people who have been hardened activists in left and progressive movements. They are all finding themselves inside the 99%. So yes, it's a very great thing that they have not tried to streamline the movement immediately. Certainly the question of streamlining will come, but let it come in time.
There are two ways for this movement to develop, really, if you look at it. One is to get into what is called the common minimum demand, have a demand charter and a kind of organized expression of what is happening. The other is to continue to keep this as a kind of open dissident space in which all the oppositions in that sense are expressed together. How do you see in immediate the immediate term and the long term this developing?
Well, firstly, in the very short term, there are some practical problems, which is that the police in cities like Atlanta and Oakland have taken a heavy-handed approach to the Occupy movement. In Oakland, the police used tear gas and rubber bullets and dispersed the crowd. So there is going to be the short-term problem of the police and of the weather. In New England, the snow is going to fall. It's not clear that people will be able to withstand the very cold temperature and terrible conditions. So it's my sense that in the short term, what would be really appropriate is for the Occupy movement to declare victory, a considerable victory already, and to say that, look, whether we stay in our encampments now or not is not the issue. The issue is not to protect the encampment. It is to protect the momentum. Certainly, they should say we're going to return in April. In April, when the weather is better, and April 15th is the tax day. That would be a nice symbolic day to return. So my sense is the encampments themselves are not the issue. The issue is the momentum. That being said, if the issue is the momentum, I think both approaches which you have sketched out are important. In other words, both the dissident space must be maintained, this open space for growing out of a nursery, a left bloc in the United States. The left bloc in the United States had been crushed. So this is, in a sense, nursery gardening. We're starting from small shoots. So an open dissident space must be maintained. At the same time, because there is a kind of structuralistness, an enforced structuralistness in the movement, there are no easy leaders. But still, at the same time, just as the movement declares victory, and the victory is simple. Everybody is talking about income inequality in the United States. Everybody is talking about the fact that there is such high joblessness. This is entirely a consequence of the Occupy movement. The fact that this tax day, this last year, the average tax cut taken by the 1% was equal to the average income of the 99%. We are at such an incredible state of inequality in the United States. So everybody now is talking about that is sufficient to declare victory on that itself. And I think the open space must be maintained because that is crucial in this period to actually building the movement.
So basically it has shifted the discourse, but how it can shift the politics is something that remains to be seen. This is basically what your take on this Occupy Wall Street is currently, right?
Yes, precisely. I mean, it has a lot to do with the fact that the political, that is to say, the electoral space in the United States is suffocatingly closed. It's impossible really for the left to produce any kind of immediate impact upon the Democratic Party. What is perhaps necessary is for some kind of independent space to the left of the Democratic Party to open up. But in this kind of political system, a third party is virtually impossible. So it's going to be a very curious developments in the next few years as this left bloc, independent of the Democratic Party, tries to engineer a space for itself in the electoral domain, which it does not automatically have. So right now there is a left politics developing, but a left electoral space that is to be seen.
But it may still help, as it has helped to shift the discourse. It may also help to shift the politics of the United States more towards the center, certainly not to the left as of now. So I think let's watch how it develops, and we'll come back to you again. Thanks, Vijay.
Thank you.